This episode is brought to you by the Buffalo Bills, clinching playoff spots since 2017.
This is Hot Drop, where we bring you premier PUBG analysis and the balmiest of drops. I'm Cody,
I'm Dano.
and let's get into it.
For this episode, we wanted to cover the first 1.0 update and patch notes, talk about what the definition of done is for this game, and discuss the future of PUBG as described by PlayerUnknown in a recent H3 podcast interview. This week was another major milestone for the game. We reached 3 million concurrent players on December 29th, and these are the biggest numbers ever recorded since Steam launched in 2003, the biggest numbers that any game has ever seen on Steam. There's potential that other games could be higher, like CSGO, because it has its own client in China, so there are separate numbers being logged somewhere else. But just the fact that we're seeing 3 million players playing this game at any given time is absolutely incredible. I didn't know if you had anything else to add about that.
Yeah, I kind of did. Last week we were kind of talking about how they didn't quite reach it, but there were so many different opportunities for the game to grow and do different things, and it's really cool to see that literally 2 days after we recorded, they hit that 3 million player mark.
Yeah, it's been a goal that they've been shooting for a while, and they've finally reached it, and it's pretty damn impressive. I think it's something like 1 out of every 100 Americans would be playing this game if all of those numbers were from the United States, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Okay, so let's jump into the 1.0 update. The first update that we had gotten from the 1.0 version. First of all, the world spawning map, I guess is what you would want to call it, is they changed that to be 50-50 split. You have a 50% chance of getting either map, which I'm certainly for. I know we were kind of talking before when they were still on the test server and how we really wish you just could have picked Miramar because it was so much of a bummer to see that you were given Erangel during the test server launch of the new map, and I'm really glad that they made this 50-50 now that it's just a full release game.
Yeah, you would see people entering the game, and then if you got the Erangel map, you would see the numbers just steadily drop off from the 100 players joined. It would steadily drop off, and usually games would start with about 70 to 80 people because people just want to play the new map. You know, people want to play the new stuff, and they shouldn't be punishing the people who want to play the old stuff. But it's totally understandable that when you join a game, you want to play the absolute latest and greatest because the map is exciting and new for everyone to try out.
And now that we've played both maps so much at this point, I'm glad no matter what map we get at this point. I'm glad when we get Erangel. I'm glad when we get Miramar because it makes it more interesting at this point when before I just wanted to play Miramar and figure it out.
Yep.
And now I'm glad I get a little bit of a break. I get to go back to something that I'm comfortable with, and then I go to Miramar and I have to find something I'm adjusting to still.
Yep. And I think this is what's going to happen. The game is just going to level out a little bit more. When people start to learn the new map, they will be happier playing it a little bit less than they would be if the map was brand new and they wanted to play it every single time they joined a match. But I agree with you. Now that I'm seeing a 50-50 split, we just played a match in Erangel and had a really, really close game. And it was refreshing to go back to the old map and play, situations where we're more familiar and surroundings that we're more familiar with. But I think Miramar will get to that point with us, but it's taking a little bit of time because there's a lot to learn in that map.
So much. But where we do learn a lot of things is in the new replay system, which has been adjusted, and it seems to be a lot more functional at this point. And they addressed that pretty rapidly when people started complaining about it, I thought.
Yeah, I just tested it out actually today, and it seems that overall the controls are pretty good. I thought it actually was pretty easy to use once I figured out what those controls were. Again, it's something I mentioned last week that or to you, I mentioned it, that people don't know the controls for the replay mode because they don't tell you what they are, and there's no way to find it out unless you Google it. So that's a terrible, terrible thing. And they really need to put the controls in the game as some kind of key or some kind of just, a quick guide on how to use it. But once I figured out how to use it, it was pretty powerful, and it actually is very smooth. Overall, I was able to really, fly around the map and look at all of the players around me and how the round played out. So I'm really liking the replay mode, and I'm also seeing a lot of people use this replay mode to create some very cool videos and very cool
I've seen a few
cinematic
that
effects.
Yeah, I saw a few of them that really looked like they were from like an 80s movie car chase, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I think PlayerUnknown also posted one that was similar to that as well, where you got a bunch of different angles of Adacia just getting wrecked and flying off and doing kind of a Dukes of Hazzard type deal. And that's pretty cool to be able to give somebody, the players of this game, like more of a creative aspect as well, because people have been doing so much with this game in terms of social media and stuff like that. Like, this is just one more thing that we kind of get to dive into and do some more cool stuff with.
Yeah, and they're giving the players themselves, they're giving free marketing to the game, basically. I said that poorly, but basically they're giving the tool to the players to use to create videos that will then market the game to other people. People will create these awesome clips
the entire time anyway.
Absolutely. Like, this is what I said when the Shadow Play automatic highlights was released. Just that when people get their hands on this stuff and they share these awesome clips with their friends, and now they can make even cooler clips with the replay tool. It's just free marketing for the game, and it's going to make people be aware of, how fun this game is and how exciting it can be just by seeing these crazy clips that people are posting.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And like, even the opportunities for us to do strategy replays and things like that, just so we can analyze how we're playing and maybe share that with you guys who are listening, because that was the first thing that I thought of when I saw that this replay thing was like, how can we show our strategy and how that worked, or how that didn't work, or how something was totally not in our control at all and we were super pissed about it.
Yeah, totally. This is something that we've done in the past. So I've done a couple gameplay analysis videos with Lemon John, who we will definitely have on the show in the future. It's not it's not just a two-man show anymore. We want to bring on other guests as well, and also talk about some gameplay footage with those people. But what I wanted to say was just that we're going to have this replay tool be a crucial element of our gameplay analysis videos. We can really get a lot of different points of view. We use the free look camera, really zoom out, see what could have been, and see how things actually did play out. And it's going to be a really, really good way to really break down how we could have played better, or what we did that brought success to our squad.
Yeah, that's perfect. Kind of moving on to our next topic after that is the bug fixes that we had gotten in that first update since 1.0. And let you take that one away, Dan.
Sure. So they fixed an issue where some buildings and objects were not marked on the Miramar map. I didn't actually see which things these were. I don't know if you noticed any places that were previously not mapped that are now labeled on the map, but I didn't notice anything new.
I did not, actually, and but we were also talking about how certain items, it's cool to not see them marked on the map. So depending on what it was, like if it was a building in Picado that was big and they didn't label it near whatever, that would be an issue. But the fact that they don't label the mine is something I like, because it allows people to find them.
Exactly.
So depending on what they changed and how they changed it, I might disagree.
Yeah, I think also the map is really new to both of us, so I don't think it would have been something that we'd have noticed right away, just because I'm not familiar with all the towns yet. I'm not familiar with, for example, El Azahar at the northeast side. I don't think I've ever really landed there. That's just one I could think of, but I'm sure there's other places on the map too that I just don't really know the name of, don't really know where they are, and just wouldn't notice any change.
Yeah, for sure.
So they also reduced occurrences of the issue where replays occasionally crash back to the lobby screen. That's a great fix, obviously. You don't want any crashes in a full release game. On restarting a replay, it will continue where last viewed. That's a cool feature. So if I'm reviewing a replay and then I leave, I can view that replay again, and then I would be picking up where I last left it. They fixed the issue where the beginning of the death cam and replay were missing. They fixed an issue where players couldn't earn BP, which I believe stands for battle points, but I don't know if they've ever mentioned that's actually what it stands for, but
they have not, and I feel like there could be so many things that BP could stand for.
Yeah, we'll just call it battle points. I don't know.
Butt play.
Whatever
Bee
you want it
Palace.
to be. They said they will update
Banana pack. Okay, I'm
Banana
done.
Pack. They will update a compensation plan for the Banana Pack very soon. I don't know what that means, but maybe that means if you didn't receive your Banana Packs, you will now be receiving them retroactively. I don't know. Could be. Um, they also fixed an issue where players could die unexpectedly from fall damage.
Yeah, so this was an issue that I was actually having earlier in the week last week. That you would just like nothing would kill you, and we had the one where we on that motorcycle,
Oh
and
God,
essentially
yeah,
nothing happened, and we just died.
yeah,
And it was like the slowest motorcycle death ever in
yep.
the history of motorcycle deaths.
And also, I think this is a separate topic, sort of, but when you're parachuting into a match for the first time, you're about to hit the ground, taking fall damage when you hit the ground because your parachute caught on nothing is the most annoying thing ever. And I really think they need to do something about that. This is a separate topic from this bug fix because they didn't do anything with this yet. But I really want them to see, really want them to implement some kind of invincibility when you, as soon as you drop out of your parachute until the moment you hit the ground. I don't want to take any fall damage regardless of where I've landed. I think they really need to fix that because I hate going into a match, hitting the ground for some stupid parachute bug reason, and then half my health is gone for no reason.
I wonder if they've really put into consideration whether or not to keep or change or do nothing about that. I'm sure that some Redditors or somebody has said like, hey, I don't like this, but I wonder if they've really sat down and been like, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Or if this is one of those like tertiary concerns where they're like, we'll let that lie for a while. And if it really becomes a problem, we'll do something about it.
The
Because
only
you
thing
could argue that it gives you an advantage or a disadvantage depending on how you play the game, and that's just one of those things you accept.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's a possibility that you could be taking fire. Like you could, so say some people who pull their chutes really, really early and they float for a really long time. That could make some people get to the ground, get a gun, maybe even get a scope, and potentially pick you off in midair, right? So there could be that tiny window from the moment that your parachute disappears while you're falling to the ground that you could potentially get shot and die at the hands of someone else. But I think that's just such a small window. I really think they should be implementing an invincibility from that moment. But also at the same time, like, should you be punished for being a shitty parachuter, right? Like, should you be punished if you suck at parachuting? So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, but so every time I come and think of these things, I also think, what about the pan? It always comes
Yeah.
back to that. Like they
Yeah.
didn't change that. They just kind of accepted it for part of the game, and people tend to love that one. Why not get something you hate?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. They go for realism, but to a certain extent, and some things they just leave in because they think they're cool mechanics.
Yep. And I don't necessarily agree with them doing that, but if that's their excuse, I'd go, yeah, that's valid. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's all I got to say about that. And the last bug fix was fixed an issue where bullets couldn't penetrate particular fences from both sides. And this is something I have seen myself where I've tried to shoot someone through a fence, but it has done nothing. Like my bullets just hit the fence and it's as if I'm shooting a brick wall. So I'm glad to see that they're addressing that. But I have seen videos on Reddit just today. It's actually at the top of the front page of it, of the big PUBG subreddit, that this is still not working right. There's a lot of fences in the game, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to take more passes to fix all of the instances of this happening.
Yeah, I had also noticed that this was happening earlier today when we were playing, that I tried to shoot some people through a destructible fence, and the fence only partially was destroyed, and then nothing else happened. So I had to stand up and move to the empty space, and that was actually where I had died just a few minutes ago. And you had come back, and the guy circled around the building, all because I couldn't shoot through that fence.
Yep. So I think there's a lot of things like this in the world where, well, first off, let me just say that we really need bullet penetration everywhere. CSGO has this mechanic where if you're shooting through wood, your bullet slows down a certain amount and it only does a little bit less damage than it would if you were shooting someone normally. You have different types of materials in the wood, steel, or in the world, like steel or wood or a plaster. I don't know, all the different potential things you could shoot through. all are taken into account and all are penetrable to a certain extent with certain weapons. So they really need to add this to the game, and I'm amazed that they don't have this yet. But that's probably one of the biggest things on my list of wants for this game.
Interesting.
Yeah. So even like the biggest like most concrete structures, like if you think of like a giant concrete block, for example, you're probably not going to be able to shoot through that. But in CS:GO, if you just align yourself with the corner of it and sort of shoot through just a little bit of that material, the bullet will still penetrate. So every
that's cool.
material has like a certain coefficient of strength, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but basically you can shoot through anything to a certain extent. And it also factors in how far away from the object you are and the caliber of bullet you're shooting. So they need to add something like this to PUBG. It doesn't have to be that intense of a system, but it needs to be there because there's so many times where I get screwed because my enemy shot through the railing and I didn't when I'm trying to go up a stairway.
Nice.
So yeah, that's all for the bug fixes. Next we have, well, there's one more thing you wanted to talk about, right?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to point out that I thought it was a little bit funny that Blue Hole did not want to directly approach calling rubber banding what it is. They wanted to sugarcoat it a little bit, and they wrote in one of their postings was, before we dive into the patch notes, we'd like to sincerely apologize for the inconvenience caused by the intermittent lag and character position readjustment issues, aka rubber banding. And they covered exactly what this is, and I think that we have talking points about what this is and things like that later on, but I just thought it was a little funny that they didn't just call it what it is. They didn't call it a duck.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, everyone knows what rubber banding is, I think. It's pretty obvious.
And it's been pretty bad.
Horrible.
As of
bad.
late. But it did get a little bit better in the last couple of days, but it's still there, especially if you land in a highly populated area.
Yeah. Yeah, I would give them credit. I think the update they did push did a lot and did make it quite a bit better, but there's still some happening, and they need to really work on this to get it completely eliminated from the game.
Yep.
So I think that sort of leads into our next point, which is what is the definition of done for this game? So
I think the big running joke at this point is it's esports ready.
Yeah.
Every time you have a crash or something bad happens and you go, yeah, esports ready. Here we go.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, there's a lot that this game needs before I consider it done. What PlayerUnknown said in his interview, and we're going to talk about that in a little while, but his interview with H3, he said that it's done based on the fact that they've delivered everything that they said they would deliver before the end of the year, and they released it before their date.
Yeah, and the understanding of that was they were told to make a game that they could release to people within a year.
Yep.
And they did. They did that. They had certain criteria that they had to meet, and those features were vaulting, a new map, a replay system, weapons and vehicles, and stat tracking. And like, if you meet those criteria, now you have a game. And that's the same thing that anybody else does when you put out a specific product. Is it like, we have this product, and if you plan to evolve it, this is what you're putting out first.
Mm-hmm. I had this. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think that they kind of nailed it on the head, and they kind of kept everybody with it for so long. And then people were like, oh, it's broken, and expected more from 1.0 than really realistically thought it should be.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was about to say, which is that when they announced that on this date, you're going to get 1.0, I sort of had it in the back of my head that maybe we were going to get a whole lot more than the build that we already have been playing. You know, we've been playing this test server for a really long time. Everyone pretty much moved over to the test server. I think they had something like 300,000 people playing the test server because this is when they released the Miramar map only to test. So we were playing this build for a really long time, and we were loving it, and all the changes it had, all of the new weapons and new vehicles, new map, new mechanics, vaulting, all this stuff was in the test build.
The new kill feed and everything.
Everything. Like, we were just taking it for granted, I think, because we were playing on the test server thinking that, and it was on the test server for so long that we just sort of figured that all of those things were actually in the live server too. But there was one night we played and the test server went down and we had to go back to play on the live server and we
Oh, it's
realized there was
garbage.
no vaulting. And we were like, how is there no vaulting? Like they didn't push vaulting to live yet? So
Yeah.
like I guess we sort of expected that once 1.0 hit, we would have a complete game and we don't. And
No, we don't. But now once you get past that shock factor,
yeah,
you can go, you're right. Why would we expect to have a
yes,
complete game?
exactly. And a lot of people don't get that through their heads. They see, oh, it's fully released, it's a done game, it's completed, it's perfect, there's no lag, all the features are there. And it's not like they've set us up to think that. I mean, all along they've been saying, like, this is what's going to be in 1.0. You know, they
Yeah.
never led us astray. They never, you know, made us think there was going to be more than what there was. It was just everyone figured, and I'm speaking for everyone when I say that, but I thought personally that we would have something more than what I had been playing for the past month on the test server. That's pretty much
You
it.
know what's really interesting to say about this? Well, as you're talking, I'm kind of thinking about like how people play video games.
Hmm.
And with me, I stick with a video game for a long time. Like I will pick a game, I will play the hell out of that game, and I might have a secondary game, and then I'll once that time is up or they come out with the next iteration of that, like Assassin's Creed. I'm a completionist. I like to play those games through and through until they are fully complete. I think a lot of the people that get really mad about this are people who switch games constantly
Hmm.
because they were probably playing this and got a little bit of the live server when it was still in early access and were mad that it is so broken. But then you have people like us who do podcasts about it or people who do channels and things like that who understand that it is changing. And while it's frustrating at times, it's always going to grow as long as people still support it. But the
Yep.
second that people get mad and stop supporting it is when the game's going to die off, and people then are going to go, see, I told you it was a broken game. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy if people let it be.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. And the other point I wanted to say was that we're in this cycle of, you know, Call of Duty, new episode every year, right? Like a new
Right.
version of the same game every year, and people are very quick to move on to the next thing. But I'm
If
the
I
same
think
way
about
as
my
you.
little brother, he will play every game as it comes out. So like he gets a lot of video games and
Yeah.
he's good at playing video games. But as a 15-year-old, had two video games and then he's got a library of them.
Hmm.
And the only game I've ever seen him play continuously is Fallout 4.
Hmm.
Plays it nonstop, but he also plays every other game as well. And so like knowing that a lot of these players have one game that they always go back to and then just play a bunch of others. PUBG is in line of the bunch of others.
Yeah. And I'm not that way. I
No.
very much like, if you look at my Steam profile, it's like Counter Strike, PUBG, Fallout 4 for a little while. But it's like when I'm playing a game, I only play that game.
Right.
And I play the hell out of it, like you said.
As of right now, I play PUBG and I play
Yep.
Assassin's Creed Origins, and that is it.
Yep.
And that's all it's going to be for a while. And I'm okay with that. I'm
Yeah.
cool with it.
Yeah. I think people also see a game on the Steam market and think it's just like any other AAA title where they expect it to be done and complete and essentially feature complete the moment they buy it. But that's not the case with PUBG. Like we know that we're going to get more features, we're going to get more maps, more weapons, vehicles. But the core mechanics of the game I think are finished, but it's not a AAA title. Like they're not done with the game yet. And I think that's also why this definition of done comes into my head, where if you bought a Call of Duty, you would expect that game to be working flawlessly, no lag, completely optimized, all the features included. Maybe they would have to include a couple patches down the road if any issues come up, but literally when you buy a $60 title, it's going to be done. But PUBG isn't a $60 title. It's not a AAA title. It's not made by an Activision. It's not made by Ubisoft or EA Games. It's a different type of game, and I think a lot of, I hate to use the word casual, but a lot of casual players come into this and think it's a complete game, but the reality is it's not, because they haven't done the research and haven't understood the background of the game as much.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Well, let's kind of take that and use that as a jumping board into Brendan Green's interview on H3. Is that he said this is not a sprint, this is a
Yes.
marathon. We
Yep.
have so many plans for this game over the next 10 years or more, that it's not going to look like the same game a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They're going to give it legs. It's going to be, it's going to have a platform of its own, sort of. And we don't really know what that means at this time because you might have mods, you might not have mods, but now is too early to tell.
Hmm.
You don't know what the game is going to turn itself into.
Right. I think they've established the core mechanics, but they haven't said exactly. You don't know exactly, like you said, what it's going to turn out to be a couple years from now.
And I'm kind of holding out hope that it's going to work out the way that you had said it was, where like they're going to end up allowing mods at some point when they're not afraid of people taking out their engine and dissecting how it works and things like that. And they're going to allow people to play in a World War II setting, or they're going to allow people to do a map that they've created on their own, or a different game mode that's totally customizable. Things like that are going to be really relevant a few years from now when this game is more optimized and is easier to work with.
Yeah, I would love to see that. He did say that mods are not in the immediate future, not in the near term future, because they're still working on some big mechanics of the game.
And that makes sense. That
and
makes
it makes
total
sense,
sense
yeah.
because why would you want to allow mods at the inception of the entire game?
Yep. And the biggest
Um,
thing he said was that this opens up the door to potentially more cheaters and more people that are messing with the code that shouldn't be messing with the code. Because when you mod a game, you have to introduce, I mean, I don't want to speak like I'm a programmer because I'm not, but I know that you have to change a lot of the code in the game to introduce new features. And sometimes this code is things that could enable cheats to be, exploiting that bit of code. So like if I'm creating a World War II type game and I have to create a new game mode like a King of the Hill or a team deathmatch type game mode, I might open the door to people exploiting the game based on the changes I've made. I think that's a very blanket way to put that, but that's something he was worried about because he hates cheaters. He said that very clearly. He hates people who cheat in this game. And that's why I think they need to let this game bake a little more before they introduce modding, and I think they're right to do that.
I would totally agree with that, and I think that it's weird to want to even introduce modding, even if they did. When he also talks about like the way that people cheat and how to report those cheaters and how it kind of works and kind of doesn't work. And so like if you were to even allow that kind of thing or consider allowing it, all of a sudden that opens it up to like how are these people cheating, if they are cheating anymore, and how do we detect that, because they're already pretty bad at detecting cheaters. And you still have to report everybody. There's no auto detection yet. And you really don't know how to distinguish between all that stuff. And even we were looking at the replays going like, was that a an aimbot or was that
Yeah.
not? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with the replays is just that the bit rate, I'm sorry, the tick rate is so slow because you've seen it and you've called it out to me. You're like, why are you aiming behind this person?
Yeah.
Like, it's because what you're seeing is not really what's happening. So there's times when in a replay I see someone shoot me and then sort of like their aim snaps to the next person next to me in my squad. And it's hard to tell if that's actually an aim snap cheat or if that's just, the crappy replay that I'm seeing. But they did say that they have a feature in place to auto ban team killers, which isn't cheating, isn't a form of cheating, but the fact that they're building tools to automatically ban people that do things that are against the rules is two thumbs up for me.
Well, that's weird though, because I would agree with you on a morally based decision that you should not be team killing if you're pissed or doing whatever. But like a lot of times we'll go like, all right, let's get out of here. Instead of going to lobby, let's drop a grenade and or like pick somebody off. But does that mean that stops?
Yeah, I think he said something like it's the people who do it routinely and maliciously. I think he said that it picks up on the fact when you're doing it. I don't know how it works, but I'm pretty sure he said that they're able to tell if you do it purposely and with bad
Like ill
intentions.
intent.
Yeah.
So like they
Versus
would
people who
know
are just
if I
screwing around a
went,
game.
ha ha ha, let's get out of here. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get out of here, and I shoot you in the face.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty
I
sure.
wonder
he
how they
said
would do
something
that, or if like some guy named Brad is sitting there watching all these screens, going like, "Oh, that guy did it intentionally,"
Yeah. Yeah.
but that lady really messed him up. That's not nice.
Yep. My favorite is grenading my own teammates or just pulling the pin and just running at them.
They call him Brad the cheat monitor. It's like a hall monitor, but cooler.
Speaking of cheating, I think we can say that BattleEye. So I don't know how familiar you are with BattleEye, but that is the anti-cheat program that runs in the background whenever you launch PUBG. They have announced that they have banned 1.5 million cheaters in PUBG.
I wonder how many of them are actually back in the game just under a different system or anything like that.
A new account, yeah, buying the game
Yeah.
again. But let's see. They said like 30 million people have bought the game, 1.5 million cheaters. I don't know how to do percentages off the top of my head, but that's less than 5%, right?
Dude, I took remedial math in high school. I don't know.
I didn't really do well in math either. So let's say that it's not a lot of people are actually getting banned. So I'm sure that there are way more cheaters out there. We've seen it. Like we've played against cheaters very recently, even yesterday, 2 days ago. So there's more out there, and they need to keep that.
It's weird though, because you don't really run into them as often as you would think. I think a lot of the times, people go like, "Oh, I wonder if they were," because that seems a little fishy, and then you rewatch it and you go like, "Oh man, no, that guy was actually just really on point, or that was a really smart move of them."
Yeah, no, that happened to me last night. Totally. Like I died thinking like, "Oh, this guy's totally a cheater," and then I looked at the replay and I was like, actually, I just sucked. Like that was my fault.
Yep.
But I think cheaters just don't stand out as much as they do in a game like Counter-Strike, where it's 5 versus 5 and you play 30 something rounds against each other. When someone is cheating in Counter-Strike. It's so obvious. But you might not even come across a cheater. There might be 3 cheaters in every single game we play, but we'll just never cross paths with them, or they'll die to someone else and we'll never know. So I think there are a lot of people cheating. It's just because the nature of this game, how Battle Royale is played out, it's not as obvious. And there's really no way of knowing for sure if someone was cheating unless it's really blatant.
And I guess a lot of people's concern is like, how is this going to affect its ability to be an esports game? And I'm not exactly sure because I don't really know how esports work. But from some of what I've been seeing, a lot of the ones that are live and in person, they're going to know.
Yeah.
Like they can't hide the fact that you're cheating. So like that's not as big a concern as I've heard some people complain about. But I do understand what that does to the integrity of the game going forward if there are a lot of cheaters and they're not really doing as much as they can about it. But I like how they keep addressing it. They keep saying, I understand, like this cheating is a big problem. This is what we are doing. We can't give you all the details because then people will just go around those things, but we are working on it. We have dedicated a bunch of people to fixing it or trying their best to fix it.
And this is also where I think in the past people have criticized PUBG for saying that they were against the fact that Fortnite is a thing, right? Remember when they said a while ago that, we don't appreciate the fact that Fortnite is sort of stealing our ideas and stuff like that. But I think that Fortnite being on the scene, being what it is, being developed by the people that actually make the Unreal Engine is a really, really good thing for PUBG because they can help close the holes in the code that people are exploiting. I think
I would agree.
Behind the scenes, Bluehole has a very good relationship with Epic. I'm sure of that. And
they wouldn't be still using their engine if there wasn't.
Exactly. And I think it's a really good thing that Fortnite became another battle royale type game mode because they can help each other and help close those problems that cheaters are exploiting.
Kind of jumping around here a little bit.
Yeah,
I was talking to my brother about how I wish that he had a PC so that we could play PUBG together because he plays on a PlayStation. And he was like, "No, it's fine. I have Fortnite." And I was kind of like, "Oh, that's really weird that like us who live in this world, we're kind of like, yeah, Fortnite's cool and all, but I'd rather play PUBG." Where he just thinks they are the same thing.
Yeah, completely.
He goes, "No, I'm good. I have Fortnite." And I was like, "Huh." Weird, because it's not the same thing. It's got its cool characteristics and stuff. I don't particularly like the art style or the fact that you can't name down sites and stuff, but it's not the same game. Yes, it's Battle Royale mode, but it's not at all the same.
Absolutely. And if I may take the opportunity to plug a previous episode, check out episodes 15 and 16 of the HOTDROP PUBG podcast. We talk about PUBG versus Fortnite. We did 2 episodes, part 1 and part 2. And like I said, episode 15 and 16, check those out. That is a really good place to go for our opinions about Fortnite. We play the game, we discuss it, we talk about what we like and what we don't like, and we compare it directly to PUBG. I think that it was a great couple episodes. I thought we really
that was a lot of fun because that was the first one that we really collaborated doing a lot of stuff instead of just interviewing or whatever. Like we really did our homework there.
Yeah, absolutely. We really break it down and go pretty in depth, and it's about an hour of content there. So, highly recommend checking those previous episodes out. Really bouncing around here. So, what else did PlayerUnknown talk about in the H3 podcast?
So I think that the biggest thing that kind of jumped out to both you and I was his mentioning twice about what character leveling is,
Yes.
or that they plan to introduce character leveling in that, and that popped up a ton of questions for us.
Yep. Twice in the podcast, and I listened to this on a long drive home, so I was really paying attention to the episode. But twice he mentioned that character leveling is coming to the game, and twice Ethan did not ask what that meant. Like, it was almost like PlayerUnknown was saying, like, prompting him to ask him about it, and he didn't, which I was really bummed about.
Character leveling.
It's like,
What was
ask
that?
me about it. But he never did. I was mad. So this could mean a lot of different things, right? This could mean
It's concerning, but it's also super interesting. And I right now I'm a little concerned about what that actually means because
yeah,
of the skill level that you need to play and how that is going to affect other people.
yeah. Does this mean that your character will now have skills like, oh, I have level 2 running ability, so I can run faster than you can? Are there going to be assignable perks? Is it going to be like a tree of skills that you can upgrade? Is it going to mean unlockable cosmetics or weapon skins or actual weapons like in Call of Duty? Remember how you, in the old COD games, I don't know the new ones because I haven't played them in a while, but you would have to rank up your character to be able to unlock the better weapons. Personally, I don't see this happening. I think that I have full trust in Brendan Green and the team that he knows what it takes to make a good game, and this would really detract from what they've established as the ultimate battle royale experience so far.
What I see this becoming, and I truly believe this is probably what it's going to be, is that you earn rank by winning and getting kills and staying alive the longest. And so out of all those leaderboard statistics, they rank you based on that. And so you could be a rank 20 and then they move you up and they try to match you with rank 20s.
Yep.
Or if you are a new player, they will rank you with level 2s and 3s and things like that. And as you work your way up, you can drop down in those standings, kind of like a season, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This is something
you
that
rank yourself and you match yourself.
Yeah, H1Z1 does a similar thing with seasons and different tiers and rankings. CSGO obviously does something like this too. I'm more familiar with CSGO because I played it for so long, but basically there's something like 16 ranks, and you can be, you play X number of matches to place you in those ranks. Say you become a silver 4 or whatever, which is like one of the lower end ranks, and then you get matched with other people in the silver range, like silver 2s, 3s, and whatever is above silver. You get placed with those people.
Interesting.
And then it makes it so it's more of a level playing field. But my argument is that this is such a wide open game. I almost like the ability that you can go against the best players and beat them in this game.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And part of it is that what happens when you have somebody, say there are 5 levels, just to make it easy. You're at a 5 and I'm at a 2.
Right.
And we go in as a duo. How do they match us?
Yeah. That's the thing.
What are they going to do?
So in Counter-Strike, so say you have, silver 1 through 4, right? And if I'm a silver 1 and you're a silver 4, if we queue together, we get matched against people that are silver 2s and 3s and potentially 4. It usually scales up to the person that is the higher rank. But the problem is,
they're going to carry the team anyway.
Because they're going to carry the team. Exactly. That's the idea. But on the flip side, you cannot queue with someone who is so far above or so far below your rank. So if I'm a silver 1 and you're like a god, a global elite is the highest tier in that game, I cannot physically queue with you. It will not let me play with you because our ranks are too far apart, and it doesn't know where to match us against other people. The only ability to get around that is when you have a full party. So if you're in CSGO and you have 5 people in your group, you can be matched together and it will figure out who to put you with. But you have to be within a certain amount of levels to be matched, to be able to go into a match together. So that could be an issue. Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot to the ranking system. It's more than just saying like, oh, you're a level 1, I'm a level 5, and Like they have to build in a lot of tools and a lot of
Yeah, and plus,
code to
like, you
make it work
can't.
right, make it even.
It's interesting because, like, you would say that that person's really going to carry the team, but like, you can't really do that. So,
Yeah,
like, even if I were terrible, Admiral Zakbar were terrible, and John were terrible, and you were just killer good, you still wouldn't be able to carry 4 people or 3 people on your back and win that match.
yep,
We would all die off, and then you would be on your own against squads.
yeah.
And so, like, this being able to jump into specific matches really wouldn't help you any.
Yeah, and that's how it works in Counter-Strike, because you think that if you have someone who's a very low rank and someone who's a very high rank, if you match them against people that are like middle ranks, it will all even out. But it's not true, because the guy who's a low rank dies immediately and it becomes a 2 versus 1 against the guy who's good, and he can't
Yeah.
always carry.
And even if
So,
that guy were like an excellent marksman, he's still not going to be able to sit up on a hill forever because the circle moves.
exactly. Yeah, I think this game has just so much RNG. It's so random. There's a lot of different things that can happen in a game that make it so you win or so you lose. So much of the end game is just if you get the circle or you don't. Like, let's be real. Like, the final circles, even if you have a full squad and there's maybe like 10 people left, your chances of winning go up astronomically if you get lucky and the circle lands on where you guys already
Oh
are,
yeah,
instead of having
absolutely.
to run across the field to get to it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I get what they're doing and what they're trying to do here with the ranking system if they do what we think is going to happen. But my argument is just that, like, I'm not complaining against going against skilled players. Like, you're not complaining against going, for going against people that are better than you, right? Because
No, not at
the
all.
playing
I
field is
actually
just so
I
level in this
get.
game as is.
Yeah, and it allows me to improve as a player, knowing that I am not being coddled essentially and being
Yeah,
placed with people who are more in my skill zone because that's harder to move out of it. You know,
absolutely.
if
That's
you are
such a good
in
point.
if you are in the lower area and you finally start increasing your skill set, all of a sudden you've now plateaued again the second that you hit that next level. And it's not as much fun because all of a sudden you are back down and you are stagnating yourself.
Absolutely.
You're not learning from people above you. You are now trying to fight against your peer group. And I don't like that idea. I
You've
like being able
completely
to
nailed
jump
it.
in.
This blows my mind because this is exactly the problem with Counter-Strike. You get into this silver hell. Like, you get
Yeah.
stuck down there with people your level and you can never get out of it. And plus, on top of that, you have people that are actually really, really skilled players coming in, buying a new account, and being intentionally ranked as a silver, just so they can dominate everyone and feel good about themselves. Like, you have these people are
Exactly.
called Smurfs. I don't know if you're familiar with that terminology,
Well, that
but
happens throughout every game. Like,
yeah,
even if you look at a game like Clash of Clans, like that happens at the same because they put you in a
yep,
specific league. And then, like, if you're at a or a gold, I don't know if it goes gold 3, 2, or 1, but like you're in the middle league, and then you finally get promoted because you've gotten enough points, and then you just get demoted again because these
yep.
people, they set up their bases so that you can dominate them, and then they come through and they wreck it at the next season because they're just dominating everybody else because they were placed in gold 3
Yep.
and they're really in like the legendary.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. And it's so hard to get out of that low tier placement unless you have a consistent group to play with, people that um, that can help you get out of it. Because you get stuck there and it's so hard to get out. But
And
I don't see that. I don't see PUBG being that type of game. I just
I
don't.
don't either, and that's the thing. I want it to keep its integrity in the way that it's kind of going now in its infancy is everybody's on the level playing field, and if you're better,
Yeah.
great. If you're not, sometimes you'll get lucky, and then you'll get better. When I first started, I was getting no kills ever, and now my early game is actually pretty good, and I feel really good about myself when we get into those games and we do stuff,
Yeah.
and I never feel like I'm screwing up the squad right at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
Whereas
Yeah.
before, I was like, maybe we should take a side area and like drop and be safe. And now I'm like, let's do it. Let's go down. Let's survive this thing.
Hmm.
And it just feels good.
Yeah. And I get the point of introduce a character leveling system so that people have something to work for, because it is rewarding if you finally rank up, right? It
Mhm.
gets you something to strive for. But I don't see that being important in this type of game. It's not a game like Counter-Strike where everything is all about aim and positioning and round after round after round of the same thing and basically perfecting your game based on the situation you're in. Like there's the whole round mechanic, there's the economy. Like none of this exists in PUBG. PUBG is too random to have a very strict leveling system implemented. I think there's too much of the game works against you or works for you, in order for you to have a, how do I put this, have a logical path forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it 100%. Like it is its own beast, and there are good and bad about it, but it makes it so randomized that you can't take advantage of any of them to work just for you.
Perfect. You've wrapped it up. I think we can move on. I was getting a little heated about that one. I like to see what they do because I really don't know what they're going to end up doing.
Yeah, I would too, and I don't think that PlayerUnknown is really going to mess this thing up. I think this is essentially his child. He's never going to let this thing become bastardized or do anything that's really going to hurt it unless they kick him out and tell him you don't work on this thing anymore.
Yeah.
But it's named after him, so good luck.
Exactly. Yeah, try taking his name off of it. Yeah, what else we got? So he did say that cosmetic microtransactions are coming. We know about this. More boxes are coming, more loot is coming. And the only thing I want to say about this game, what I want to say about loot boxes is that this is crucial to keeping the game alive for years to come. This is how game publishers make money and how the game stays afloat. If you want updates and if you want people to still work in this game, you have to pay them somehow.
Because eventually the sales of the game will fall.
Yeah.
And you need these loot crates or microtransactions, however you want to see them, as long as they are not pay to play, which is why people hear loot crate, pay to play, or pay to win. Sorry, pay to win. And that's not it. It's not it.
And he specifically said that items such as camouflage that will give you an advantage will not be put in these cases. So that's all I need to hear. I am 100% for loot boxes. I've said it in previous episodes. As long as they're cosmetic, as long as you can opt out, and as long as it is not a pay-to-win situation, I am all for it because this is how the game stays afloat for many years. Like, look at Counter-Strike.
And personally, for me, when they have these things and they drop in, it's like, cool, I'm not going to pay for that. I'm going to wait for the day that I got those sweet blue high tops because that's what I like.
Yeah.
And I'm not about to buy them. But some people who go, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I'm going to buy it. And I go, good for you.
Yep. I want that red check shirt. I really do.
So bad. It's real nice.
But I haven't bought
a jacket today, and I'm real happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to see what the skins they're going to add because I like skins. They're fun. It's cool to dress your character the way you want. I'm just happy that I can choose to pay for them or I don't. That's fine. And it doesn't make me any better or give me an advantage or give someone else an advantage because they've decided to spend $100 of their own money.
Exactly.
Cosmetics.
And what's going to be fun is when you see 100 different kinds of parachutes or something, you know?
Yeah.
Being able to kind of like distinguish yourself as a player instead of what everyone else has when they have hundreds of options as opposed to the 25 or so that they've kind of got now.
Yep. And that's what it is. Just personalization, putting your own touches on your character is super cool. Yeah, so I think those are the big points that I want to mention from the podcast, the things he brought up. I highly recommend you guys go and check that out. It's episode number 44 on the H3 podcast. It's a good listen. He's a very humble guy. I think he really understands what you need to do to make a game like this fun and successful. And clearly he's done that because, look at the numbers, look at the sales. Everyone's playing this game and it's so fun. It's just so fun. And I really, really see that he cares immensely about this game. So go check it out, hear what he has to say. And let us know if you had any thoughts about what he has to say and if you want our feedback on those things, because it's like an hour-long episode and he has a lot to talk about. So
it was pretty great.
Pretty cool to see. Cool to listen.
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, I hope you guys noticed that I got a new mic and I don't sound terrible anymore.
Love it.
We're pretty excited. Maybe look forward to next week where we plan on doing some strategy analysis and in-game stuff. So really look forward to that. It might be a little bit of a change of pace. But we're actually pretty excited about the opportunities that we have coming up here.
Yeah, and especially this new replay mode. Now that I've gotten my hands on it and I've actually tried it out a little bit, it's going to be really cool to break down our games using that tool. So look forward to that in the coming weeks.
As always, we have new episodes coming out on Tuesday nights, and we'll be streaming on Twitch every Wednesday from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yep, that is twitch.tv/HOTDROP_podcast.
Please like and subscribe to our channel if you like what you're hearing. If not, that's cool too.
And until then, we'll see you in game.